Stacey Bolon is the co-founder and CEO of STiiNT-iT. STiiNT-iT empowers professionals with a real-time, third-party verified career history hub in order to make professionals discoverable to hiring companies globally. Stacey has diverse work experience across the corporate world as a former leader in innovation management, transactional pricing, and billing systems for across the commercial, corporate, public sector banking space, as well as the crypto and blockchain product and use case stream lead for blockchain enablement at a leading bank in South Africa. Stacey was also the youngest ever male or female to fulfill the role of president and chairperson of the University of the Witwatersrand. We know it as WITS. So their convocation executive team, managing a team of 20 executives in representation of approximately 200,000 WITS alumni members. Wow. She was also a member of council in the governing body of the university, the honorary degree committee, and an external advisory on innovation. Also has board level experience as a non-executive director of the Royal Bafokeng Institute. And this is my conversation with Stacey. Stacey, how you been?
Laka, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. I've enjoyed kind of reminiscing on things and activities, projects, people I've been with, did some work with over the years, and I think the catalyst has been going back to re-release my books. And in doing so, it's almost like the universe is just really reconnecting me with the people where all of those things started happening. I had an interview with Tim Holmes of the Sadar Group, and we were speaking about how to set up a board, things like that. Things I'd been learning over the years, but it's very good to just catch up with everyone. And it's always it's what I'm also excited about. It's the good people, right? I mean, people like yourself, people like Tim. One never forgets the people who've always been genuine, who've always been truthful, who's always been supportive. And I think those people will always be valuable. And I appreciate you. Thank you again for being here. And I want to put this out. I wasn't going to say this, but I've put out a call, right? Maybe to 20 women, 20 ladies, in the hope to kind of do interviews for Women's Month. And it's sad that maybe because we're strangers, right? That's fine. But I just want to commend you for always being there to represent yourself and, of course, to represent women. And I'm saying you are going to be the first lady that we obviously have for our Women's Month. So big up. And I hope you'll continue to inspire people. You'll continue to be as supportive as you are. And I know you're working hard. We see you.
Actually,
we see you. Keep doing that, yeah?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I actually recently did a lecture to a venture launch elective class at University of Cape Town, their MBA program. And one of the topics that we actually covered was social capital. And it was a very interesting conversation because I think that a lot of people focus on having conversations in a very sales related manner. But I believe that a lot of the sales, specifically for entrepreneurs, a lot of the sales that do come your way is from, like, in my opinion, is from kind of being seen. And not wanting to just extract from the ecosystem. I think a lot of what's required when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a startup, is this notion of partnership and being able to give as opposed to just expect that you're going to be receiving. So I just thought that to give as opposed to just expect that you're going to be receiving. So I just thought that I would add that because I believe that social capital is just so heavily overlooked. That should be part of Startup 101, how to just be able to establish great authentic relationships, not for the purposes of taking something out. So thanks, Kate. I really appreciate you.
Case in point. Thank you, Stacey. And with that said, please introduce yourself. For those who don't know you, how would you typically introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Super. Thanks, KK. So I am what some might consider the epitome of a squiggly career. I don't actually think that there's any role that I've ever been into that I was actually qualified to do so. It generally had like a little bit of kind of negotiating my way into roles and positions, and relying on the fact that people could trust hopefully the horsepower that I was saying that I wanted to invest into whatever role I was taking on. So I've had a long stint within the financial services sector.
Pun not intended.
I'm not
Or is it?
intended. ABC, always be closing, right?
Nice. I like that.
But, so maybe it's a good segue to say I'm currently the CEO of a startup called STiiNT-iT. And we'll get to that in a moment. But my squiggly career essentially began within the financial services sector, going into a graduate program straight from university, and kind of navigating my way through strategic analytics, innovation management, pricing and billing for transactional products across commercial, corporate, and public sector banking division. Also looking after product and use case for crypto and blockchain, with some like R&D sort of elements to that over there. Concurrently, I've sat on an executive team on a council at Wits University, which is one of the top universities on the African continent. Actually, the university from which Nelson Mandela graduated. So that's certainly our claim to fame. I have also chaired that executive team, and that was an interesting experience because absolutely everyone on my exco was certainly far more qualified. I guess purely just in terms of age, but certainly a hell of a lot more qualified than I was to go into that position. I was the youngest person to have ever held that position in the history of the university.
Not surprised.
And in addition to that, I've been involved in 2 previous startups. One, Venture Network, where you and I actually connected. Venture Network, my fellow directors and I built out an ecosystem to connect VCs, seed angel investors with entrepreneurs, throw in some co-working spaces, etc. And also headed up an edtech business that I really felt very, very strongly for. That business was an early childhood education tech business. And now I currently sit on the board as a non-exec director of an entity called the Royal Bafokeng Institute. So again, I guess drawn back to the notion of education. So that's kind of what I keep myself consumed with.
Nice. It's such a full professional life, and I can imagine how much it just fulfills you as well on your personal side. Now, before we get to your most current venture that you are yourself are kind of running and pushing, can you try and explain or elaborate on all of these things that you've done? Because right at the beginning of your response, what is obviously clear, it's always been clear to me, but what I want to ask now is, where does that drive come from? Where does that drive to be as passionate as you are, and to have this mainstay power, because you're very consistent, right? You stick with projects, you push them through whenever there's challenges, you find ways to overcome them. Where do you think, who taught you this? Where did you learn it from? And yeah, how do you maintain that?
Cool question. I think that it's twofold. So early on in my childhood, I was actually a very, very shy kid. I had a lisp, so kids couldn't really understand me and try and say the name Stacey when you've got a lisp. That's a tough one. And my parents actually started me doing karate. And that was an environment where I could self-manage. And I grew into a very competitive individual. I actually competed internationally 6 times. So I have 11 international titles, one of which was
Stacey, I didn't know about that. Amazing.
Yeah. So number one, I think sports is so important. It definitely gave me a phenomenal foundation from which I believe that I've benefited greatly. So thanks, Mom and Dad. And obviously that's given me a lot of competitive personality, one of a lot of discipline, because you have to maintain that consistency. Yeah. And I think the other thing is probably I'm just curious by nature. Like I get very inspired by these cool technologies and big evolution and ecosystems, and I just want to get stuck in there and learn about it. So I think that kind of moves you from place to place.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And this is the part where I don't say anything about my yellow belt in karate, right? I won't say anything. But with that said, Stacey, please, can you share the story behind STiiNT-iT? What inspired you to create what I'll refer to as a talent marketplace, which my understanding is that it's specifically for a niche market, professional societies and associations. But let me not put words in your mouth. Please tell us a little bit more about it, yeah?
Super. So we are STiiNT-iT, and essentially we are on a mission to build the world's most extensively verified database of business professionals. Pretty much so hiring companies can come onto a database and find their perfect match. Nice. In our mind, it doesn't really make sense for individuals to constantly capture their information on job boards over and over and over again.
Totally. I agree.
My information stays exactly the same. So why do I have to keep capturing it?
Yeah.
The notion of verification is obviously key there as well. And essentially we understand the problem around access to talent such that by the year 2030, there's going to be about an 85 million person shortfall.
Wow.
That means that there's going to be a power shift from employers to employees. Because for each employee or for each vacancy that's not filled, that's about R1 million lost in revenue.
Of course.
So we're now enabling those companies who actually now need to step out and start searching actively for candidates themselves. But the notion of paying recruiters is very expensive. So that is the gap that we are essentially looking to fill, bringing a verified database of business professionals directly to hiring companies.
I got chills as you were talking, as you were sharing the stats. And look, I've been doing what I do for a long time. I've done it, across different phases, across different businesses and industries. And it is sad how much we are not doing enough to kind of prepare for it, right? And it's coming. I mean, 2030 is not too far away. And something that I wasn't ready to share publicly yet is, we struggle so much with talent, and sometimes, which I don't necessarily put the blame on the youngsters, but because it's an ecosystem, from the education sector to the learnerships, right? The CETA accredited role players and everybody in between. Including ourselves as industry, we're not participating to prepare the talent enough so that we can demand or what's the word? Feel entitled to what we feel we deserve. But the point is, I'm very sad that I had to let go of 10 youngsters after only having them for 6 weeks, right? But because I now I know what this business needs in order for us to keep playing at the rate that at least the minimum playing field, and of course to continuously improve. But we are in the process of going back to the same pool of talent to look for a different set of people. But the point is, there's so much we need to work together as a collective in order to prepare these youngsters, to prepare the talent, and of course to educate the employers and the business executives. And talking about that education, what do you believe business owners, specifically small to medium business owners and business professionals at large, what do you believe they need to know about nurturing top talent within their respective industries?
So I actually, if you don't mind, I actually want to rewind a couple moments back to what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
So cool. one of the partnerships that we're actually really, really close to closing now is selling our white label version of our technology to a big university in South Africa. So number one, obviously we'll be able to verify that the student goes to the university, is studying what they say they're studying, has the marks that they say that they have, et cetera, right? And I went to have a meeting with a really, really big consulting company. And the meeting that I had with the
I just love how you don't mention names, but yeah, I love it. You're so professional.
so professional from my corporate days, right?
Nice. I like.
So one of the big consulting companies, and when I walked into their offices, there was a big board that was advertising an actuarial science VAC work program, and I said to her, "How is that going?" She said, trying to get these students to apply to it, it's been a bit of a mission and it's a longer process than she wishes that it was. So I said to her, well, would you come onto a platform, obviously referring to our platform, would you come onto a platform where you would be able to connect with the top 5 students in actuarial science from first year, second year, third year, and honors? She said, absolutely. I said, interesting. I said, great. Would you connect with the bottom 2 students from first year, second year, third year, and honors? And she said to me, why would I connect with the bottom few? And I said to her that, and I mean, that's sometimes there's heart that leads and there's sometimes head that leads. And I kind of move between the two. So I said to her, the reason that I think that's such an interesting question is that these are students that are studying actuarial science. These are some smart students. You don't know the circumstances that these individuals had to overcome to get there, but they're at the top echelon, from a STEM perspective, they make the mark. I said, if you were to take these bottom 2 students, give them the opportunity to get some real world insight into that program and to pair them up, for example, with a mentor. So you can give them that confidence and that support to just finish their degrees and get there. You're changing their lives, and you really are changing slowly but altogether the economic prospects of society. And it was wonderful. She sat back and she looked at me and she said, yeah, I love that.
So do I. I'm loving this philosophy aspect of just, I'm impressed.
If we can bring the richness of the data, then companies can make their decisions because they're more easily able to access those individuals. If you're looking you mentioned from a small to medium business perspective was actually your question. From a small to medium business perspective, if you want someone to come and assist with bookkeeping, to tap into gig work opportunities, to say, hey, I'd like a third-year student that's done really, really well, connect with that individual. Maybe that individual is happy to just do it for free, just to get some on-the-job experience. Connect with that individual and, allow that student to do some on-the-job experience, some exposure. And I think that's a space that small to medium businesses have typically been locked out of. If you're looking for a graduate, you kind of need the budget to get in there and arm wrestle all the big companies to get access. Otherwise, if you're a small to medium business, where do you go and find these individuals? It's hard. We're hoping that through bringing something like this to the market, that it kind of levels the playing fields, and it allows the small to medium businesses a greater access to talent as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so, what do we need to know about recruiting and nurturing talent, especially in today's day and age?
So, I mean, there's actually some very interesting philosophies that we're actually following, right? So obviously, as we move into the day and age of AI, there is the ability for us to match with much more precision. As an example, if we've launched a legal marketplace. We've sold a version of our technology to a customer that has a big database of legal professionals that are busy signing up onto their site. They're called UMBIE, UMBIIE. And if you are looking for a commercial litigation attorney with 5 years worth of experience, that has the jurisdiction to work in a particular country, that has professional indemnity insurance for X amount, that has experience in aviation, and is willing to work, hybrid. That is the sort of detail that you'll be able to get.
The number of filters and
within our data set, as opposed to like LinkedIn, you've got a name and a picture. So already you're introducing bias, and we can talk about bias in a moment as well. LinkedIn, you've got a name and a picture. They've started to introduce verified information, verification. And you've got a job title and a little bit of information around what you have achieved. That's not sufficient to be able to find your exact match
100%.
attorney, as an example. And that's the reason why it's on average taking 5 months for people to find and fill vacancies, because like the data is just not good enough.
I totally agree. I mean, just ourselves, after we had to let go of the other round of interns and we went back to market, the number of submissions we had that we had to filter through, that was just honestly crap, right? One is, we were very clear, do not apply if you do not have 1, 2, 3, right? It was insane. It was insane. So I can just see that the kind of challenges that you obviously helped to resolve. But just going.
Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that's the complexity with jobs boards. So you, for example, are looking for a particular type of candidate, and then you post a vacancy, right?
Yeah.
The individuals that are going to be applying are coincidental. They just so happen to stumble across the vacancy. They're looking for a job, and they're clicking and like typing in their information, and they're going to take whatever opportunities they can get to have an interview. It doesn't mean that if you have 100 applicants that you've got the perfect match. You could have the opposite issue where you've got like a handful of applicants, and those are also not the perfect match. There are candidates in the market that are passive. And those sorts of passive candidates may not be sitting on, again, like a LinkedIn and applying to jobs boards.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Stacey, I'm just going to take you back and say, what do people like me need to know? What, in terms of, again, so maybe let's say once we've put out our ads out there, and maybe we've secured and recruited 5, 10 people, whatever the case may be, depending on our projects. What do we need to know? Because I'm a bit of a dinosaur, actually, now that I think about it. Right? So there's certain things that I haven't upgraded my I guess my understanding of. One of them is in the recruitment and HR space. What do I need to understand now, considering that literally at the beginning of August we're going to bring in another 4, if not 6? What do I need to understand, especially about the younger group of staff and team members that we're going to bring on board?
I think in order to attract and retain talent, the value proposition is essentially something around value and impact. One of the ways in which I try to lead my teams, and I think that I've been relatively decent at it, is through managing through a concept of catalytic leadership. And catalytic leadership is essentially leading through vision. If I buy into what it is that you're trying to do in the world, if I'm inspired by this incredible work that you're doing, I want to be part of that team that's doing incredible work. And I think that is very much a magnet for young people to believe that they are part of something. I think that because of these digital devices that we're kind of always speaking to each other through and texting each other through, there is a need to connect. There's a need to belong. There's a need to feel seen. And I'm very much of the opinion that being able to get teams to actually buy into one vision and forge forward with creating great impact, I think that's really a special sort of place to work. That is the sort of place that I would want to work.
I agree totally. Thank you for that. I just realized that now I understand what you meant by professional societies and associations, but can we just circle back and say, how does STiiNT-iT actually help customers solve the related challenges? If you were to sum it up, and if you want to speak to what differentiates you, feel free to add that in as well, just so for the benefit of our audience can understand that.
We sell our technology as a white label version of our tech. So it means that the front end will look like whomever we sell the technology to, whether it is a university or an accounting association or a professional society. And the reason that we do this is because there's verified information sitting there. If you're speaking to the Law Society, they have already pre-vetted, and the individuals that belong to the Law Society can be given like that little blue tick. The same goes with the university or with an accounting association, etc., right? And the reason that those entities, I believe, are of such value is because they hold the supply and the demand. They have the supply of professionals and a trusted brand in market, and they can generate the demand because they're known.
Yeah.
So in order for us to say, well, connect your CRM through our technology that allows you to have insights into your members, because that's a lot of the things that we're finding is that such associations or societies don't have that real-time access to their members' information, because there's not really an incentive for them to update their credentials and information.
Totally.
So they're really just adding a whole lot of value into ecosystems. And where I think the likes of, a lot of social media professional groups is they're really just weak relational links. I might belong to a particular forum online, but I don't really have a feeling of belonging. But if you take me back to my university, and I'm a grand example because like my blood is the same color as the university I went to, but I have an attachment to that. So for me to become more entrenched into that community, having this sort of a platform where I can capture my information, and the university is constantly, having their community growing the community, and attracting, hiring companies to come search their database. And the way that we've actually structured the revenue model of it is that the professional society or professional association or the university generates a revenue from driving this business. And that for me is a ginormous accomplishment, to be able to allow universities and professional associations to generate revenue from that.
Yeah.
Because it means that they can put that value back into the members.
Totally. Totally.
So, yeah.
No, and I just got this very clear picture of and I was debating it in my own head, that how much disruption are you doing to this industry? And I can tell you now what it is defined as intermediation. And it could be disintermediation because you're slotting yourself in the middle of these players and somewhat potentially disrupting where the power base used to sit, which is potentially with recruiting agencies, right? While at the same time you are essentially improving the quality of the data and the information, and therefore enabling and equipping the other parties that didn't have as much power before, i.e. the educational institutions, of course, and the associations as well, and they can push forward and, as you said, generate revenue. I love it. Now, just from an accomplishment perspective, milestones, where is STiiNT-iT right now?
So right now we have two platforms that have been launched into the market. So one is Ambi, the legal platform that we mentioned. The other one is called STiiNT, and that is actually the original business that my business partner derived, and that is essentially for labor market that does work offshore in oil, gas, and renewables. So we built a platform around that. And very shortly, we hopefully going to be onboarding a university, so offering that supply, a association of private sector companies, listed companies within South Africa. So we create the supply and the demand. The intention is obviously to try and drive that nationally. And that for me just is such a big win for everyone, for students to be able to have access to gig work, for universities, associations, societies to be able to generate a revenue, for large corporate to be able to come onto a database, search for what they want, admin free. I'm hoping that will lead to the prevalence of more VAC work or vacation work, because I don't believe that we really using that opportunity and giving these students on-the-job experience. And the students and graduates obviously being able to be discoverable by hiring companies globally. Once we sell our technology to the legal society within the UK, if there is someone sitting in South Africa that has the skills and the talent that is required for a law firm in the UK, that law firm will be able to access, again, this global verified database of professionals and be able to access talent that's sitting in South Africa.
Wonderful.
And vice versa.
Wonderful. Please remind me at some point to introduce you to Andrew De Silva. They are in the marine industry across 6 different countries. One of our clients. Big ups to Andrew for having grown this business to an amazing place in like 7 years. They were in the country. They've spent about a week with us. Phenomenal. Top 20, 24, 26 people. Their managers, they came in and we helped worked strategy, negotiation, deal making, those kind of initiatives. So I'd love to introduce you to them and see what you guys can do and work together in terms of recruitment, especially because they help to place talent in various businesses across various industries as well. And with that said, you mentioned at the beginning that you and I met when you were still a big part of Venture Network. How does it feel to be on the other side now, in terms of being, the one in inverted commas chasing the money, chasing VC money, and what kind of experiences have you had?
So it's an interesting experience with the shoe being on the other foot, right? And it's also a different time. So funding has, in 2023, funding has actually dropped 50% from previous years. And there's a really, really interesting article on Medium by Stephen Deng. It's called Africa's S-Curve, and I absolutely recommend that you read this article.
Great.
It was
please share it, and then we'll include it. Yeah.
Unbelievable information there.
Nice.
And really, like the funding having dried up is obviously causing quite an impact within the local market. Yeah. Within that article, Stephen actually quotes that about 75% of the investment that was being channeled into Africa was from foreign investors. And I think that the foreign investors assumed that the African market was going to grow at a similar pace to international markets. And we haven't, we can't, because we're obviously less mature from that perspective. Yeah. I think that one of the things that our market does need to learn is the ability to partner. I think our partnerships have some work to do. And I wonder whether that has something to do with the notion of like PSD2 and open banking, which is not a directive, locally within Africa, but very much an EU thing. So it's definitely been hard yards. The intention, however, from our side is to generate revenue and to show the level of value that our business can generate. Obviously, the greater the value that we can illustrate when we are engaging VCs. Those VCs are going to be, bigger VCs that come and write bigger checks for us. So I think that the strategy that we're holding right now is just get our sales over the line, show the value of the business that has been bootstrapped up until now, and I guess trust oneself. So totally. My business partner's a phenomenal problem solver, and I think between the two of us, we really do just make a really great synergy, and we're driving the business not as quickly as what we want, but we're definitely doing some really, really interesting things.
Fantastic. Thank you for everything you mentioned there. But I just want to draw on the last thing you said, that if a phenomenal problem solver such as yourself calls somebody else a phenomenal problem solver, I'm intrigued in terms of his ability.
He's
Sounds like a superhuman right
fantastic.
there, right? Yeah.
He's
Stacey, thank
fantastic.
you, man, for for the conversation we're having. Just as we kind of get closer to wrapping up, looking ahead, what are your goals? What is your vision? And how do you see yourself and the company kind of evolving to meet those demands and to meet and to obviously achieve that vision?
So I guess the penultimate vision is to drive this massive global talent network growth, being able to give people opportunities and drive social impact in the way that we're wanting to. And to be able to attract global utilization, because that essentially allows anyone to become discoverable by hiring companies internationally. And one of the images that I have in my mind is, for example, South Africa is certainly the home to what I consider some of the best of the best in terms of mining engineering. I would love to be able to go to like a SpaceX and say, come take some of our top students in mining engineering, bring them to the States for a VAC work program, and really, I think that the power in a story like that would really make everything just totally worthwhile. And I guess if we're putting it out to the universe, we're hoping that the universe is going to deliver. But that's definitely the energy and the extent to which our ambitions are. We swinging hard. We swinging for the fences and loving and enjoying the ride to the max.
Very inspiring. One of the things you mentioned was, we don't collaborate as much as possible, as much as we should, rather. And I just want to put it out there, what I do is to help and collaborate with people such as yourself. And I'd love to do more of that. I'd love to help you with your vision. So please, reach out. And also, this is not a joke, but you said SpaceX. And I want to say, Elon, if you're listening, please, we got nothing to do with the politics of this country. Can we just please work? Jeez, man. Right. So yeah, I think let's work. Let's collaborate more. Let's do what we know needs to be done in order to solve these big problems we have. And more than solving big problems, let's chase those massive opportunities. Stacey, thanks again for being with us today. Any last words, pieces of advice, and how can people get a hold of you?
So I would love people to follow us on social media channels. So the spelling of our company is STiiNT-iT, so STiiNT-iT. We are on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter as well. And I think that's probably the best way that you'll be able to remain up to date around what it is that we're busy with. If there's anyone that's specifically wanting to get hold of me, STACEY@STiiNT-iT.com. And other than that, like KK, I really appreciate you reaching out to me. And I look forward to follow-on conversations. I thoroughly enjoyed just speaking with you today. And thank you.
No, thanks for your time. Thanks for your energy and for always, just doing things for others. We'll definitely make sure to include your links to your different social media profiles, the website, and so on. And we wish you all the best and hope to see you here again not too far from now, so that we can continue those conversations of collaboration and seeing how we can move the world forward in a more positive way. Thank you very much, Stacey, and take care.
Thanks, KK.